Welcome to the Plant Trainers Podcast, where we're helping people improve their quality of life through nutrition and fitness. And now, your hosts, nutrition and wellness coaches, international speakers, Adam and Shoshana Chaim.
Hey, I'm Adam Chaim.
And I'm Shoshana Chaim, and we are
Propelled by Plants. Today we bring to you episode 441, Plant-Based on a Budget with Toni Okamoto.
In this episode of the Plant Trainers Podcast, we talked to Toni Okamoto of Plant-Based on a Budget. How cool is that? She's become a plant-based vegan superstar, and we are enjoying making her recipes from her new book. We get to talk all about that in this episode, as well as the plant-based world and how community was everything for her when she got started. Of course, we talk about saving time, saving money, and saving headaches when planning and making plant-based meals. You know I love talking about freezing food, so we cover that, and Toni lets us in on a big tip about product placement in the grocery stores.
Toni's the founder of Plant-Based on a Budget, the popular website and meal plan that shows you how to save dough by eating veggies. She's also the author of the Plant-Based on a Budget Cookbook, co-author of the Friendly Vegan Cookbook, and the co-host of the Plant-Powered People podcast. Toni's work has been profiled by NBC News, Parade Magazine, and she's a regular presence on local and national morning shows across the country, where she teaches viewers how to break their meat habit without breaking their budget. She was also featured in the popular documentary, What the Health. This is such a great episode with so many amazing tips. You're definitely going to enjoy it. Please share it out.
You've told us that you're bored of what you're cooking. You've told us that you're not eating out as much and you want to be a little bit more entertained with what's on our plate. So we showed up and we made the Plant-Based Comfort Foods Cookbook. It is an e-cookbook that is above and beyond what we've done before. The pictures are gorgeous. The recipes are easy, but they're going to look restaurant quality. We are super excited for this book, and we can't wait for you to get your utensils on it. Check out the link in the show notes or check it out at planttrainers.com/shop.
And now for a moment of gratitude.
I'm grateful because this is the week of the 1-year anniversary that I Am a Peaceful Goldfish came out. It did 4 times better than the publishers had kind of expected, and that all happened in the first 3 months. So I'm just so grateful that this book is still going and it's helping little children and their adults take deep breaths and feel better all around the world.
I'm grateful for all our new listeners that we have, and I'm sure there are plenty of new ones popping in on today's show, so welcome. So happy to have you here, and really appreciate you taking the time to listen to our show.
Toni Okamoto, thank you so much for joining us on the Plant Trainers Podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me.
We are super excited to learn all your tips and tricks. And before we do, we wanted to know if you have a moment of gratitude to share with us and the listeners.
I do. I feel really incredibly grateful that during this time of uncertainty that I have a job, and one that I love, and that I have a support system in my family and a comfortable place to shelter during this pandemic. And if it really happened any other time in my life, I didn't have these resources available to me. And so I just feel really grateful to live comfortably in this time that is so hard for many people. And I know that just a couple years ago, it wouldn't have been the same.
It's definitely difficult for a lot of people, and we all have to be grateful for the support systems that we have in place, because that's what really gets us to be able to do the things that we need to do. So that support's very key.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's incredible that we're still being grateful for that at this point. To just about the 2-year mark of that. But for those people that don't have that support system, definitely open your eyes, ask for it, look for it in all of the places, because there's people out there for you. And I can see that for everybody listening, whether they're experiencing it or not. So we just have to call on the universe to be there for us.
Mm-hmm.
So we would love to hear how your plant-based / vegan journey started and some of the different milestones that you reached along the way and to where you are now.
Well, it was long and slow to begin with. It was gradual over a long period of time. And I think it was that way because I grew up in a family where, vegan, the word didn't exist, but vegetarian was dirty. It was like, well, my family is not into hippies, and they're more, one, culturally Mexican, even though I have a Japanese last name. I grew up culturally Mexican because my grandpa was disowned from his family for marrying a Mexican woman. So we didn't have a lot of Japanese culture besides my grandpa, who actually helped raise me. So part of my culture is food sharing and expressing love through feeding people. And so that was an issue in the beginning of my first stopping eating beef. And my family was like, oh my gosh, what are you doing to us? You don't eat beef. And from there, I went on to being fully vegetarian, but not really understanding what that meant. And not realizing there was chicken broth in a soup, just because I didn't have a lot of friends who were vegetarian. I didn't have any family who was vegetarian. And this was around, I would say by that time I was about 18, 19 years old, where I'm like, okay, I'm a vegetarian, but kind of picking the pepperoni off my pizza and things like that. And it wasn't until I was about 20 years old and I was in a veg club on my community college campus where I learned about the suffering of cows specifically. I didn't realize, I thought cows produce milk. Why can't I drink it? Chickens lay eggs. Why can't I eat them? And when I learned a little bit more about the industries and we went to visit a farm animal sanctuary, I just felt so called to make a lifestyle change. And I feel like having the passion behind your choice helps it become more sustainable long-term. So of course I've had some hiccups and I've eaten things here and there that weren't plant-based, especially in my early years, by accident or by choice, just because I didn't know that the guacamole had sour cream in it or like things like that. But also I remember my first month of being plant-based, people kept gifting me food. It was around the holidays, and it was hard for me to make those choices. So in the first few years, it was a challenge to say the least. And I feel like if I didn't have my convictions, I couldn't have made it this far 15 years later as a long-term vegan.
So it's interesting because you found it so early, but you didn't have the support of your family, and you still truck through. And yeah, hiccups happen. And, even we got a box of chocolates at the holidays, and I'm like, what do I do with this? We're definitely not going to eat it. I feel bad giving it even to somebody else, but things come up that do tempt you less and less and less at different parts in your journey. But you were able to kind of pull through and not just do it for yourself. I mean, the impact that you're making now on the world and social media and your books and all of that is huge as well. So thank you for pulling through. Thank you for getting through that. I think that's amazing. So you kind of had that conviction for animals. Did you have anything in your health or your life change other than that?
Well, in the very, very, very beginning, the whole reason I started was because my track coach noticed that I was getting sick pretty often, and he thought that it was diet related. So he asked what I ate and realized I ate a lot of fast food. And so he asked me to cut down on fast food and specifically red meat. And so that's the genesis of everything. I began because once I eliminated beef, it was a little bit easier to think of life without fish, without pork, without chicken. And then little by little, I was giving things up just super, super gradually. And I think that's what made it more sustainable for me, is that I'm not an all-in person, but I'm kind of obsessive about some things. So I wouldn't have been able to do it overnight. And the times I tried in my early years to be like, okay, today I'm vegan, it just didn't work for me. And I'm glad I was able to say goodbye, give a nice warm hug to all of the things I was ready to let go of forever.
Did you have support from those around you while you were doing that transition over those years?
I think what ended up making the real impact was joining that veg club when I was 20. I met people, learned how to cook with them. We had vegan bake sales on campus. We went to sanctuaries together. And also, there were people who were my peers who had similar lifestyle as me. And they didn't have a lot of money. They were, we live in a very diverse community here. And so there were people who were Chinese, who were Vietnamese, who were Puerto Ricans, all in my veg club who had ties culturally to their food and who still made the lifestyle change. And so to see people and have examples of those who were my age supporting themselves with very little money, who also grew up with this part of their identity being around food and their culture, it just gave me if they could do it, why can't I do it? Feelings.
Yeah, and we've talked about the importance of community and finding people that are like-minded and how that could impact the success or failure of what you're trying to do. And having those people around you that believe in what you're doing and know what you're doing is right and do the same, it makes all the difference. So finding a community is really an important thing for anybody who's transitioning. And there's so many more people that are involved these days. There's so many people to look up to or to get answers from than there was 15 years ago or 10 years ago when I started. And so those of you listening that are just getting your feet wet now, there's plenty of support. There's lots of community, and find people that are into it so you can feel strong and do what you want to do.
And even podcasts like this one, I feel like learning the stories of people also helps if they're relatable to you. If someone is running track and they feel sick, they could feel like, oh, wow, this person was able to feel better. Or if they're struggling with diabetes or whatever, just listening to podcasts like this. And there are Facebook support groups, and people on Instagram have they're very active with their communities online. So if you reach out and you have questions, I'm sure people will answer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And thank you. We appreciate that. And all of our guests offer information. So sometimes it's scientific information, sometimes it's lifestyle information, sometimes it's how to do this cheaply and properly and save time and money and all of that. But I think you're right in reflecting the first 10 minutes of the podcast where people are just sharing their stories, whether they're a doctor or a blogger or a recipe writer or a stay-at-home mom who made this lifestyle transformation. It's that transformation story that's really going to stick with people and that's the community that we have here. And it sounds like the community that you had on that veg club really influenced the life that you have now. And I'm not even going to call it a job because I feel like it's a passion for you and something that you just wake up wanting to do. I'll put those words in your mouth if you don't mind, but
please do.
Plant-Based on a Budget. We were lucky enough to get the book here, going through that and your recipes online and all of that. It is so culturally diverse, and it's something that the recipes are really easy and great for us as parents and a family, but can really be amazing for university students as well who are cooking for themselves. So I see so much of that in the story that you just told.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. So I wanted to say we made some of your recipes because I love to, as long as I get the book on time, I love making recipes from the book. So my son chose the queso cheese.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the nacho cheese. Yeah, nacho cheese. So we poured that over burrito night and we dipped some nachos into it. And that was great. But Adam and I can't even open the page because I actually feel the saliva in my mouth building up as I talk. The sweet potato chili. There's a nice hit of cumin in it. It's really good. It's really good.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we've been enjoying the book and looking forward to more. So really time is money. Right? Time is opportunity to spend more time with your family, to work more or hours in your job or more on your business or self-care for yourself so that you could create so much more in the world. So how can people save time when they're cooking plant-based? Because a lot of people think that you need a lot of time and that it does take a lot of time.
Actually, the book that I'm writing right now, which is the follow-up, it doesn't come out for a while, but it's all about the time aspect. That one I focused on how to be as budget friendly as possible. This one, I'm giving a little bit more to splurging a little bit to save on time. And this book is all about freezer friendly or cooking ahead or even meals under 15 minutes that you can throw together. And the way that I do that is I love to batch cook one or two things only in the Instant Pot. So it's minimal effort. So first of all, if you don't have an Instant Pot and you can afford one, you can even get one used on Amazon or on Craigslist or Facebook Marketplace. It has been revolutionizing in the way I cook in the kitchen. It is such a time saver. So I can do some quinoa in 5 minutes. I can do pinto beans from dried beans to deliciousness in about an hour instead of the usual few hours on the stovetop. So I will do a grain and a protein in the Instant Pot. And then throughout the week, I'll just add vegetables or tofu or things like that take me about 5 to 10 minutes to whip up in the kitchen. And then if I have the energy and time on a weekend, I will meal prep a little bit. I know there are some people whose meal prep style is to cook in huge batches and freeze for a month. And I don't have the space or the time to do that. So I do freeze a little bit, but I don't go that route. Usually it's almost always what can I throw together? Can I buy things that are already pre-chopped, like frozen produce? How can I get a meal on the table in 15 or so minutes is more my style. And that's almost always by just preparing one or two things for the week and adding different flavors. It also helps prevent you from getting tired of it. I know that when I make a big giant pot of chili or soup or lasagna, by the 7th day, I'm like, oh my gosh, I can't eat lasagna ever again in my whole life. So that helps me prevent, because it allows you to change up the sauces that you're using or the dressings or the vegetables or the spices that you use.
Let's take a little break so I can tell you about our plant-based comfort foods cookbook. This is comfort food, but I'm telling you, it is healthy. Most of the recipes are gluten-free. All of the recipes, except for 1 or 2 desserts, can be made completely oil-free and have oil-free options right in them. The pictures are going to make you drool. This book is above and beyond what we have put out there before. We're talking about red sweet potato curry, garlic zucchini and tomato pasta, vegan tahini tray bake, tofu pad thai, chocolate brownies. This is amazing. You're going to have enough food for weeks and weeks. And the great thing about this is that we've also included a meal plan and shopping guide to go with it. So if you just wanted to print out that page and go shopping, you'll know exactly what to make for the next 2-3 weeks. This is incredible. Please check it out in the show notes, or you can go to planttrainers.com/shop and check out our plant-based comfort foods cookbook. Guys, this is going to blow you away. And now back to the show.
I always think it's amazing that you can make one thing, and then depending on the additional spices or sauces that you throw onto it, it could change it completely. So you're eating the same base, but the meals end up being so different throughout the week.
That is so true. One of my favorite things to do is to make a really bland soup with just the stock being the flavor, and then throughout the week add by the bowl only. So you're always grabbing from the bowl, adding lime juice and hot sauce the first day. Then the second day, grab another bowl of that plain soup and add parsley and your favorite spices, and doing that instead of getting tired of the soup that you're eating every day.
I like that. And that works better than freezing. I find that personally, I should have mastered freezing soups by now, but somehow they end up like clumpy or spongy, or I can't deal with that. So that's a great idea, because you don't get tired of it. And you could do kumini one day, right? You could do chicory another day. So that works really well. And that's similar to what I do. Like I'll do a bean, and then I'll do a grain, and then or a potato. And then I'll do some kind of green vegetable, and I'll make these bowls and just put them in the fridge. And as we take them out of the fridge, we might do like a nacho cheese and salsa, or we might do more of a tamari or soy sauce kind of. I like soy sauce with nooch. I think it's weird, but I really like it. I don't know if other people like it, but every day it can or chili or, sweet chili sauce. Every day it can be kind of like a different flavor as well. So yeah, that's great. We're really looking forward to that. And I think that helps people come up with some more ideas of what works for them and their family. And some people can't have leftovers in the fridge because they're worried about mold and things like that. But if you take it and you make a big batch of beans, right, and freeze those into portions right away, that's a lot different than having it sit in the fridge all week. Right. So batch cooking when you think it out, could work for just about anyone.
I got really into, during the pandemic, I picked up a few hobbies, including gardening, which then I went down this weird algorithm thing where I went from gardening to then homesteading to like kind of self-sufficiency stuff. It was a time. So the homesteading portion, I learned a lot about food preservation, and freezing is one of the ways to keep the maximum amount of nutrients in your food. So you pick it at ripeness and are able to make your meal or freeze your extra produce at its maximum amount of nutrients.
Definitely. And that's why buying frozen vegetables can work really well too. And you're getting more nutrients and less chance of it going bad in the fridge. So that way you're saving money. So what are some of the cheap ways to eat healthy that you like to promote?
First, using what you have. I feel like that seems like a no-brainer, but it's something that people get into the habit. I know that in my family, we would go grocery shopping without a plan and without really taking any inventory of what was already stored in the house. And then you end up with food waste, and you end up with too much food in the house that you don't know what to do with what you purchased, because maybe you bought peanut butter, but no jelly, and pasta with no marinara sauce. And now you just have all this stuff. So doing inventory in your kitchen, freezer, pantry, refrigerator, and then building kind of like a meal plan. It doesn't even need to be really a full meal plan, but just making sure that you can put together something with what you have, and buying the supplemental ingredients at the grocery store instead of going to the grocery store and buying whatever looks good or whatever is on sale. And I feel like that's also what has kept me plant-based for so long, is that the hard parts come when you're on your way home from work. I used to have an 1.5-hour commute each way. And if I knew that I didn't have anything at home, I would stop by Chipotle or like go to Subway or wherever for a quick meal. And that's expensive. So coming home and knowing that I have nutritious, easy meal to throw together very fast is so helpful in staying healthy-ish, in staying plant-based if you're on the cusp of like teetering back and forth between not eating plant-based and eating plant-based. And so meal planning is number one for sure.
I completely agree. First of all, having peanut butter with no jelly is a crime. However, getting back to your point of using what you have, I think that the longer you do this, the more you come up with other alternatives, right? So you've experienced a little bit more. So you might not have the jelly. Don't let the peanut butter sit there for 5 months without eating it. Cut up some banana and stick some banana on it, right? Put some cinnamon on there too. So I think as you kind of get into the cuisine of plant-based, it really helps you to think outside the box and save money too. If you don't have marinara sauce, I like the tamari with the nooch on noodles.
Weird.
Again, really.
I've never tried that. Maybe I'll try that.
Really weird, but like I will do that if there's leftover noodles and I don't want to open a brand new can or sauce of tomato sauce because I don't want that to go to waste because I know it's not in our meal plan. And that's why I love to teach people how to meal plan for themselves. And I start with, what are you used to eating already? What meals are really easy for you? And what nights do you have the time to explore more? And then open up a really great book like Plant-Based on a Budget, see what recipe you want to make, and only buy the ingredients extra that week for that particular recipe. Make sure you like it, and then make it a couple of times more, right? So teaching people to not necessarily try a new recipe every day, because A, you'll burn out, and B, you'll buy so many ingredients that you don't have already. So, and then you can add in from the books and the websites and things like that you really like. So I think that's a great idea. And you're right. If you don't have a plan, you're stopping for fast food.
Yep.
Right? Yeah.
Yes. I feel like, so when I started Plant-Based on a Budget, the website, way back, I'm about to celebrate 10 years in April. I'll be celebrating 10 years. And when I started, it was just kind of what I wanted to feed my family, what I wanted to eat myself. And the problem that I faced was that so many people don't have strong skills in the kitchen yet. And they're just stepping in. They don't know what mincing or dicing. They don't know how to pair foods. And to me, you just like, this is missing something. Let me smell it a little bit. It needs a little bit of this, but people haven't developed that just yet. And so it is, like you're saying, harder to know that you can make a peanut sauce with your peanut butter. You could do all these things with peanut. So I ended up putting together these meal plans because people were like, I bought stuff to make tacos and I bought stuff to make pasta, and now I can't use any of the same ingredients. So what do I do? So that's how I started the Plant-Based on a Budget meal plans that show
so you could reuse the same ingredients. Love that.
Exactly.
Love that. Yeah. Because not everybody considers that. Right. And that's key. That's how you're going to save time. That's how you're going to save money, time in the grocery store, save money, and get familiar with these ingredients and how to reuse them in different ways. So that's absolutely perfect.
And prevent food waste so much. Like, it's so painful for me. And my husband is like, cilantro comes to die in our house because you have the best intentions. If you don't have a plan with it, you're like, I'm going to eat fresh herbs this week. And if you don't have a plan to use your herbs, they're just going to be very sad. They're going to be very, very sad.
Babe, can you stop at the organic store and pick up some cilantro on the way home? Three weeks later, it's mush.
Right. So, I mean, there's two major myths that people coming to a plant-based lifestyle, vegan lifestyle, really face. And the first one, everybody knows the question, where do you get your protein from? But the second one is that eating this way is really expensive. And through this book and through your website and through what you do, you're really showing people that it doesn't have to be. So other than making a plan and buying only what you need, are there any other tips that you could share to show people that eating this way doesn't have to cost so much?
Yes. Well, there are varying budgets that people have. And I've found through the last decade, that some people have very little food money. And after doing some research here in the United States, at least, you can get things covered with government assistance. So if that's where you're starting, if you're on WIC, which is a program for women and children here in the United States, if you ask questions, they will cover your plant-based milk. They will cover a lot of the basics that you would need that are whole foods. So if you do some research, I actually had someone write an article for my website about starting there. If that's where you're starting, there are options. If you're someone who has a little bit of extra money, really paying attention when you're at the grocery store and not getting caught up in the marketing of food will save you a ton of money. And I watched this documentary a long, long time ago. I was in high school. It was called The High Cost of Low Prices. And they talked about how Walmart's strategy was to not have the cheapest items right when you walk in. The cheapest items are always in the aisles. And so you walk in and you see, we'll say Hunt's tomato sauce. And you're like, it's only 88 cents today. That's a really good deal. So you put it in your cart. But if you were to go to the tomato sauce section, you might see that the Great Value store brand is 50 cents. But that person either paid for placement or they're running a special with them. And that's why you see it right when you walk in. So if you pay attention at the grocery store to all the ways that food is being marketed to you, you can shave 30 cents off here, dollar off here. And that's even when you're looking at the aisle, what's at eye level may not be the cheapest. Sometimes that's also paid placement. So if you look around, the very bottom might be the cheapest item, but we don't shop like that. We're kind of creatures of habit and convenience where we just scan really quickly. Oh, that's 88 cents. Let me grab that. And so paying attention very closely when you're at the grocery store, and also when you're being rung up. I save a lot of money when I'm being rung up because I buy in bulk. There's another one right there, buying in bulk when you can, whether that's at Costco or if you have a store where you can purchase only what you need. That has saved me. So some people think of buying in bulk as hoarding 50 pounds of something. But for me, it has been the opposite, where I've lived in a lot of places where I didn't have storage in my kitchen. And so I only need 1 cup of rice. I don't need 10 pounds of rice for this recipe. And so I can just buy what I need instead of a big bag of something that I'll never use again.
I don't think we've talked about that before, because most of the time we talk about buying in bulk because that could reduce prices. And I mean, we're a family of 4 and I buy 20 kilos of oats and 20 kilos of rice at a time. And that I have the storage space and that works for our family. But yeah, if you're going to buy 2 pounds of something and 1 pound's going to sit there in the back of your cupboard for the next 12 months. And then you're like, maybe I shouldn't have this anymore. And you throw it out. You're wasting that money. I love that tip.
Yeah. So that's one big one. And then learning to cook from scratch. And that again sounds pretty easy, but it's quite challenging it's quite overwhelming when you don't know what dicing or mincing or anything is. When What the Health came out, that was pretty much the beginning of my career plant-based on a budget. And it crashed my website. I heard from 1,000 people immediately. And I was like, oh my gosh, these are the real issues that people are experiencing. And I was getting questions like, are frozen peas plant-based? Are canned tomatoes plant-based? And it showed me where people are starting from, where they don't use frozen peas or canned tomatoes or dice or use their stoves. And so learning to cook basics from scratch will take you so far. And you can invest in the tools to make it even more convenient if you have that in your budget. But when you go to the grocery store and you look at something like overnight oats that are prepared for you versus oats that are in bulk, there is a huge difference. And so if you can prepare those oats yourself, and it's so easy, just pour some milk in your plant-based milk in your oats and throw some sliced bananas, you're good to go, instead of paying $1, $2 for this much. So learning to cook from scratch will take you very far in saving money. And there are so many resources available for free online. If you go on YouTube, you can get how to chop an onion, how to mince garlic, how to make perfect brown rice. And I would start there.
So social media is a great way to find some of these resources. If somebody wanted to check out your resources or connect with you, where would you like them to go?
And the book, of course.
Oh,
right?
and get a copy of Plant-Based on a Budget.
Thank you. I am I'm best reached by email, so you can find me at plantbasedonabudget.com. And I'm most active on Instagram at plantbasedonabudget. And there is, of course, my cookbook, which is my little baby pride and joy. Everything I've had is poured into that book. And so anyone who purchases it just warms my heart to know that it's in their kitchen helping their family eat. If it's one plant-based meal forever, then I'm grateful for that.
What's your favorite recipe in the book?
That's like asking you which one's your favorite kid.
We have an answer for that. No, just kidding.
Okay. I would say I'm really a big fan of the chilaquiles It's a breakfast tofu dish with you could do tortilla chips.
Oh my God. I kid you not. I opened to the page.
If you turn the page, there's a picture.
Yeah. I opened up straight to that bin. Like, I should look for that. So if you're on YouTube, check that out. Yeah. It's so funny. Okay. Continue. Sorry.
It is. It's really good. We actually served it at my wedding for breakfast. We did a brunch wedding and served entirely vegan. And the venue cooked some of my recipes for the brunch. And that was one of them. And it was a huge hit. And I not only think it's good, but I now have this special memory attached to it. So that's definitely up there in my favorites.
Well, we're going to have to try it. And our friends listening, we recommend you pick up the book. It's Plant-Based on a Budget. And we'll put a link to everything that Toni just said in our show notes at planttrainers.com. Toni, thank you so much for being here on the Plant Trainers podcast with us today.
Thank you so much. It was nice to talk to you both.
Thank you all so much for listening to this edition of the Plant Trainers podcast. We want to make sure that you subscribe on iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, or any other podcasting platform.
We really appreciate the feedback we receive from you. Every time we get a 5-star rating or review on iTunes from one of our fans, it really helps other people find us just like you did.
Thanks so much to our patrons. To become a patron, visit us at patreon.com/planttrainers. Even supporting us with $1 really makes a difference in the quality of the show.
And don't forget to connect with us on Instagram and Twitter. Our handle is @PlantTrainers. Like Plant Trainers on Facebook, join our newsletter, and check out our website at planttrainers.com for awesome recipes, a list of our services, and of course, our latest podcast.
We encourage you to email your questions to info@planttrainers.com so that we can help you improve your quality of life through nutrition and fitness.
So we hope we've inspired you today. Join us again next time and have a healthy day. Or is that too corny?
It's a little cheesy.